we didn't know what existed. So just not knowing what was there, that we had two major polluters in Pacoima. The pollutants had basically merged underground, and we had traveling plumes traveling towards an entire neighborhood, which happens to be where I grew up and my parents still live. We didn't know that. My name is Nuri Martinez, and I'm the executive director of Pacoima Beautiful. Pacoima Beautiful is an environmental justice organization based in Pacoima, and we're the only one of its kind in the San Fernando Valley that organizes communities around environmental justice issues. We're very fortunate that we got 2 CARE grants back to back.
Building trust turned out to be one of the real challenges in starting up the CARE program. At times there needed to be more collaboration and more dialogue and more listening, and one of the things that I am very proud about the CARE program is that I and my colleagues across EPA learned that lesson, and we got better at really having those collaborative discussions with communities and listening to what their concerns were. Hi, I'm Rob Brenner. I was the person who first began working with staff across EPA to develop the CARE concept and then turn it into a program. Well, it was apparent to us from the start that unless CARE was a multimedia program, we would not be able to effectively respond to community concerns.
Why do the communities need a OneEPA approach? Because they don't work on just water issues or air issues or land issues or waste issues. My name is Marva King, and I am the CARE program co-chair as well as the CARE program grants team lead. So they need to be able to work across our agency. They can't just work with someone from water. They need to work with someone from all of our programs.
And then we came up with the idea of, well, let's rotate the leadership of CARE so that there was real buy-in from each of the media offices across EPA.
It's not just a job, it's a commitment. It's a commitment to make a difference in communities. In order to do that, you've got to have your support of your supervisors. You've got to have the funding to go out and visit these communities. You've got to be able to make those connections within the regions and at headquarters across the agency to make sure we are OneEPA and we do give those communities the type of technical assistance and guidance they need.
We've learned in trying to apply a OneEPA concept to CARE is if you have coordination across the headquarters offices, and then you have a focal point in the region.
They have the one point of contact, either that project officer, and if it's a good project officer, and we have plenty of good project officers, they make that connection within the region to make sure that community has everything they need.
And I think the fact that EPA and its employees, mostly our grant managers that we've worked with in Region 9, have really been very humble about how they come into communities like Pacoima and have allowed the space for us to have that honest conversation about how you work with communities, how you take folks' experiences of growing up in this area into account when you're working with communities of color.
Because it's a community-driven program. That means the community makes a decision on what has to be done.
That's when you begin to see a OneEPA system working effectively to provide real environmental results in areas that need it the most.
The site has now been redeveloped. It is now a shopping center with a Costco, a Lowe's, and a Best Buy on that 32-acre site. The work of cleaning it up took almost 10 years. I know for a fact that we are now more informed than we were 15 years ago. You know, our kids have better informed community residents that are asking these tough questions and getting answers and getting results that did not exist 15 years ago. EPA, its name, its staff, how they have taken an interest in communities of color like Pacoima has legitimized the movement in Los Angeles, and that's a big deal. When you say environmental justice, people understand it. There's an awareness and a social conscience to try to make things right in these communities. We could not have done it without the work of EPA.